Hey, what's up, everybody? Doing another podcast. So, embracing your shadow. That's that person that just waved right there. That's Krisna. And then we have Pastor Darin. We got a witch, a priest, a green witch, a priest, and a warlock. I don't even know what a warlock is, but I guess I said it. So
a joke.
It does. Walked into a smoothie bar.
Right?
And we're going to talk about embracing your shadow, because darkness can suck, but if you learn to microdose the darkness and step into it every once in a while, it can help you see the light.
Yeah, for sure.
What do you want to say on that, Krisna?
Well, welcome, everyone. We're so excited to have a new friend join us for this conversation. So we have some amazing new insights to share with you. And as Steve said, today we want to dive into this idea of the shadow realm or the darkness, and what does that actually mean? Well, currently, we're recording this video during what we refer to as the Scorpio season, and that's astrology informing our perspective. And I proposed this idea for us to kind of explore this a little.
Hey, Tori.
Hi.
Tori wants in on this too.
Yeah, this is a good topic, huh?
What do you think, Tori?
Excellent topic, right? I know. Thank you for agreeing with me.
Nobody ever agrees with her.
So today we want to invite you to join into this conversation as we explore that. So for me, the idea of the shadow or our shadow self is really well explained through this astrological sign of Scorpio. And so for those that are new to this idea, the Scorpion energy is supposed to be that which can go deep in the waters. It can go into the darkness. It can go and be brave, courageous in this space of exploration. But the Scorpio in its like armor is really ready for what it perceives as like a battle or something that's really challenging.
I'm a Scorpio, I know.
Yes. And I have a Scorpio moon, so I have a unique perspective as that relates, but we'll talk about that another time. So as we explore this idea of the Scorpio wisdom of going and exploring the shadow realms, I have a question for these amazing gentlemen here. On their
Somebody
thoughts,
else is here?
on their thoughts on this topic or concept of the shadow realm or the shadow self, and how exploring one's shadows might be beneficial in our life.
I don't know it necessarily from a sophisticated place, so I want to start with Darin on that. Mine's more intuitive.
What are your thoughts on that, Pastor Darin? What are your perspectives on the shadow self, or the shadow realm?
Thanks. I'm not well versed in astrology, but my experience of shadow is a journey of integration, dimensions of myself that when my ego is prominent or my persona, the way I present myself to others or the way I think of myself, there are aspects at times in my life that were harder to accept, were a part of me that I struggled with, or other people struggled with in my relationships with them. And my experience has been that when I'm in a community or friendships that are very accepting, non-judgmental, they make it easier for me to welcome those parts of who I am. You know, to be specific, I grew up in a stable family situation, but it was stressful and impacted by addiction and depression, and I was looking for an escape through exercise, through sports, through school, through distractions, and It took me a long time to realize that's a real part of my experience, and to not just distract myself from it or cut myself off from it, but to integrate it. Like, how is this a gift, not just a curse? Because I think it has everything to do with learning compassion, learning empathy. And I'm still learning at 59 how to work with emotion. My reactions to things, my impulses. Because a long time I had a habit of just disconnecting from those disturbing feelings, to spin things positive. And that can be helpful to a point, but if it's cutting off part of what's up inside, it'll continue to hang out there, right? Well, it's kind of like a lot of things in life. If we react to it with a negative judgment, then it's going to continue to afflict us. Yeah.
I've said for a while that it's not that I don't like change and I don't like chaos. I embrace them because I know the power of being able to make changes in that nuance, and I know it's leading to something purpose, a different unfolding. That's why I do it. I don't like it, but I've learned to not even tolerate it. I've learned to embrace it because I know what it can lead to. I know the unfolding can be so powerful.
Yeah. You said something, you said so many things that were so powerful. Thank you for sharing. And I'm resonating on like one of the latter things you said about working with or through, I'm not sure the specific connecting word you used, with the emotion or through the emotion. And that's like so much wisdom that's pouring through you. And in one of the prior conversations, I was sharing with Steve kind of this concept that I like to live by around elemental living, meaning utilizing the ancient wisdoms of our earth plane, which are the 4 elements. And so really when you're sharing that, you're just really like expressing like this desire to connect to the wisdom of the water and the way that it can really feed and fuel us with so much beyond the intellect, right? Because that's the mind, our cognition, but true intelligence, like real intelligence in all the ways that can be expressed. And as a person who does have a Scorpio moon, I've always experienced my emotions in a really extreme way. And yes, I'm a feminine, right? So there's that. But always really feeling intensely, but also throughout my life, realizing that empath nature that I have, where I can feel and sense others, and sometimes collective, and how that could feel so overwhelming, to the point where it was a superpower that I almost despised. Like, I didn't love that I had that ability to connect in such a deep way, because it would also prompt depression and overwhelm and just so much anxiety. How do you manage all of that, especially without mentorship and guidance, which many of us as young people did not receive? And really learning over my life what kind of you said around, okay, this is my superpower. How do I work through and with my emotions to really propel me and help me in all the ways that I seek support in life, whether that's elevations, working through a challenge, whether that's, the reflection of relationships, which you worded beautifully around, the way that sometimes the perspective of others and the way they share it to us, that reflection can also help us work through and with our shadow selves, or those parts of us. But when it's done with love and compassion, how it just gets a little easier to be able to walk through that darkness, if you will. The challenge is really have somebody championing for us, and knowing that our light is really strong and we're resilient and they're there in whatever capacity, sharing that love and compassion. So, what about you, Steve? Does that prompt anything for you? Like, you said you're sharing, you're Scorpio, so you have experience with this. Like, what's some wisdom?
For me, I kind of delve into that in order to make a change. It can be like a family member dying. I recently regrouped with Darin at a friend of my mom's had passed away, and I recently regrouped with Darin. But like, people are like kind of like on that grieving. I'm always grieving. I'm always grieving my past self. The fact that the dog knocked the phone over.
Gave us a new perspective, actually, right?
You can probably hear her panting too. Her mouth is right there. Hey, Tori, join me over here.
Come
Tori.
over here.
Good girl. There you go.
So what I'm better at is balancing something and fixing things before they become a problem. Not always, because I recently had a breakthrough on something that I was repressing that I just opened up recently, and then I had a strong transformation. But change is easy for me, but also I have to have like a lot of. I had this young lady that was a passenger, then I ended up inviting her to my cannabis party, and then I ended up helping her out tremendously, break through a lot of different things. But one time she was talking about she has surf class on the weekends, so that gives her structure on the weekends. And I laughed. I was like, that's not structure. And then I thought, that is structure. If she has to do a surf class, it's going to keep her from being out later, or it's going to keep her from doing a lot of different things in there. And then I said, you know what? I thrive better in the world with surf class on the weekend structure.
Yeah.
I don't need a lot of structure to stay focused and follow through. I've set an alarm in the last 15 years. I set an alarm 4 days.
Right.
And I wake up every day ready to do stuff, even when I don't have anything on my schedule to do stuff. And even if I wake up and I'm like, oh, I feel horrible, the whole world sucks and everything like that, I snap out of it in a little while. I learn to laugh at that sometimes. And also I can still get things done when I have that frequency going on. Sometimes it's better to attract problems when you're on the vibration of problems. But if you live in that, then all you're attracting is problems.
You highlight something really interesting, your perspective, because someone who's had enough time to explore whatever they perceive as their darkness or their shadow, and we can word that in different ways. Maybe for one person, the shadow is the part of ourselves that we're ashamed of, that we don't like to show. Maybe it's around fear or shame or something we've been shamed. Or maybe the shadow is something that part of our personality traits. Maybe we come to this incarnation and we're really fiery, so we're constantly working through like intense emotions and or a different element, right? Maybe we're really airy and we're always in the clouds, and that's another element that brings us dynamics in our world. So shadows can be perceived many ways, but we know when it's a shadow, because the feeling is undeniable. Like, it feels like it has a particular feeling that comes with it. But when we are willing to be in that space and be courageous in that space, we actually recognize and are able to notice our strengths and resiliencies, because it is, as I like to say, that the light is its brightest in the darkness. So in order for us to really recognize how strong we are, all of the skills that we bring to the table, we would have had to also examine the polarity, which is complementary in this universe, in this earthly realm. And so that is, Steve, in your own words, you just kind of described that's not how I see it. I just see it as an opportunity to change, and I'm always changing. So for someone who's always in that energy, we do know that it propels change, because it propels transformation. When we walk through our darkness, we find our resiliencies. We literally can't help but be transformed into a new version of ourselves.
I came up with a cool thing when I had my awakening recently. I had a really cool thing. It was a big awakening that really helped my everything I was doing, my business relationships, my personal relationships. I was talking to my friend Mariah, and I just mentioned in the conversation I don't have a fear of rejection. and it was rejection through vulnerability. And I was like, well, why was I holding on to that so much? And what I came up with the concept, a landmine, an emotional landmine. So whenever we have trauma in the past, what we do is we create a landmine around these emotions that we lock it and bottle it up. So when anytime somebody, and a lot of people are jerks, and they come at us from an aggressive way, and if you're like me, sometimes you have to learn from those people. That's why I'll never say that I'm enlightened. But a lot of times, even for the people that are loving and that are coming through us, we have so many emotions, like a landmine bottled up in there. And it's funny, while you were talking before I was going to explain it, I was going to call it a gold mine. But when we let it unfold nicely, like a flower,
or soft like gold, because gold is very soft and malleable.
Then it's a gold mine. Well, yeah, because maybe it is a gold mine, but it's the perception is why we're not seeing it as a gold mine.
Right, versus a bomb, kind of one that's going to explode at any minute.
For sure.
With shrapnel and all that.
Even to work with metaphors like that are open in meaning rather than closed, allows a little gentleness and grace and flexibility, right, to receive perspective, awareness, truth that maybe we hadn't experienced or we wouldn't have come to just with rational approach or our experience. That's one of the reasons I've always loved conversations with Steve. And on the way over here, you mentioned this, connecting with the kind of energy, the presence, and a resonance, right? There's a subtlety to that that's inviting when we work with imagination, with wonder, with openness.
And that inspires kind of my next thought or reflection for both of you. And thanks for leading us into this idea of like, what intentional actions might we be able to integrate? You worded so nicely, like that's kind of where you've been able to find this exploration. How can we take intentional action to really integrate the things that are coming up around our shadow self for us to examine and explore from kind of this perspective taking that you're mentioning with grace, with play and exploration, curiosity, which is the wisdom of the child, our child within, and children, if you just pause and observe them. So yeah, what are some intentional actions or things that we can offer?
I would say number one is get out of the office.
Get out from inside all day and get outside. You can't see it, y'all, but we are in the grass in this moment. So
Darin can attest to when I was first on this campus, I would be the guy and saying, I was like, you transform education, every class, one time a year, get out and have a class outside. I go, education isn't those rooms, this is education. It's freaking it goes in many directions. Everything's inspired by nature. Everything is inspired by nature. Even the first time I had that thought, a bird was flying over, and then a plane was flying over, and I saw it, and then the bird shit, and I go, that's exactly how a bomb in World War II came out of it. Exactly how a bird shit.
Exactly
I was like, everything. The first time I spoke in one of these classrooms, the whole thing I was doing, I didn't say this to the people in the class. I said it feels like Hitler designed this classroom. And then because a lot of people on campus are really smart, and he goes, you have something there. He goes, the way that the window is shaped like that, the ones that have the outlet there, it's called something, and it means block the light out. I heard two things. I heard block the light out, and I heard block the light out.
Right.
Like the light that you teach. The light of God that sometimes the church has no idea about.
And there's some of the negative imagery with darkness or shadow too. That if we're hiding from truth, from other people, from ourselves, right? That's an aspect of it too. And that's what's usually disowned, and then paradoxically, we tend to act it out more, I think. When we're repressing it,
100.
It comes out sideways.
100%, yeah. And that's why it is so important that we are engaging these aspects of ourselves, and truly with someone who has walked with this idea of darkness for my whole life, something that, like, a topic that I really understand and feel like I personally resonate with, it is something that it's an untapped resource, or perspectively, it's an untapped resource. And it is something that, regardless of whether you have Scorpio in your astrological chart, or if you understand or resonate with astrology at all, or even this idea of shadow, but we all have aspects of ourself that is intended to help propel us and help elevate us and expand with growth. That is a very innate human process, innate desire. Even in utero, we grow from the innermost organs outward, so it mimics itself once we are birthed, through our development, that we're constantly seeking expansion. And the one aspect of the ego that gets confused with expansion is this idea of constantly wanting more. And that isn't an integration of the shadow, because the shadow aspects are really, they have the capacity to ground what we refer to as the ego, because there's nothing wrong with the ego. The ego is our mind. The ego is important. It's here to serve us, serve the deeper intelligence.
It can be a gift and a curse.
It can be a curse if we let it lead.
It's a tool.
It's not meant to lead. Meaning, energetically, the mind is the masculine. Energetically, the body is the feminine. We are intended to lead with the wisdom of the feminine, and the masculine takes action. The masculine is the mind, the thought. It can plan. It has all this amazing capacity. So the problem when it's a curse, or when it's challenging for us, is when we are allowing it to lead too much and not letting the body, the feminine wisdom, be the leading. That is where the true wisdom is and intelligence lives. And honestly, that is really, working in mental health for all these years, that truly is a thing. I'm a Gemini sun. I think a lot. I'm in my head. I'm airy. I'm in my thoughts a lot. And I've learned that is part of my shadow, but it's also my superpower. So that's kind of an example of how these aspects of us, when unbalanced, or when it's in its extreme, right? The lightness and the darkness, we don't have to judge it as good and bad, but they're extremes of the polarity. They actually can help us really highlight the things and qualities that we have that are amazing and are meant to be shared and received through that process of interaction.
What do you think of that, Darin?
Yeah, I appreciate that. That, I guess I see shadow as, for me in my experience, I haven't experienced it so much of it as a superpower, but more of a vulnerability. That
vulnerabilities are superpowers.
It feels like it, right?
In this world,
especially if it's like a fear.
Like the ego is that self-protective dimension, right? That
for sure, it's here
lining things up, career or cash flow or whatever it is, achievement, things that we think will bring us security, but they don't have guarantees. I mean,
they're false sense of security.
Yeah. But when I'm grounded, as you say, in the body, in the earth, in my natural wholeness, right, to be honest and humble about my mortality, accept that this life is precious. I don't have all the time in the world. I don't know how much time I have. So can I be mindful in this moment? Can I be present? Maybe allow myself to be surprised and not have to control everything. There's a lot of beauty and giftedness in that. Like this, your patience to hang with it as I ended up in the wrong destination and allow me time to get here. If our schedule was too crammed, you might have had to say, I gotta go, I got another thing, right? So we'll have to miss this conversation. But you didn't, and I'm glad I had openness in my schedule too. Because this is a gift to me, to have conversations like this, to reflect. Helps me put some of the pieces together.
And I was on a bike ride, and I usually don't have my phone with me. I wanted to bring something up and see how you two felt about it. So people think when I'm they hear my name's Jedi Steve, they think I'm a fan of Star Wars.
Is that true?
I believe I'm a real Jedi. Like, I mean, some people don't acknowledge me about that, but also I believe it's a made-up title, but I also believe I'm a real Jedi. But I like the concept of Star Wars that a lot of people don't understand, that Darth Vader is somebody that lives through in their head, in their masculine energy.
Right, exactly.
His body doesn't work. His body works just by the control of that.
Mechanics, yeah.
It's for the whole thing. So, and he's a very sensitive person. You violate him a little, he strangles you.
So observant.
That's not a
Very
powerful,
tender.
strong man. That's a very toxic masculinity.
Very.
Sometimes when people get mad at me, I was like, okay. So I'm like thinking to myself, I was like, okay. I mean, my body starts to tighten up, but I was like, something's going wrong with them. I was like, yeah, my person, something's going wrong with them.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's I believe that, like, even in law, I do some stuff with lawyers. Even in law, they say being a lawyer is going to the dark side, and they operate out of their heads.
Yeah.
Systems.
And a lot of okay, so if one of your employees doesn't like your environment, they're going to go to a lawyer to sue you. But lawyers, their firms are some of the most toxic environments ever. So they act like they don't know what's wrong in their environment when they'd be the first person you could call to help out your environment or to do it. So that doesn't make sense to me, because a lot of times people call on the people that, like, nobody ever asked me. I in my early 30s, I had back problems. Nobody ever asked me about how to heal your back problem, or I usually point them to something. They listen to people that have back problems currently, and they like to talk about that. And that stuff makes me want to pull my hair out.
So misery loves company kind of thing.
Yeah. I was a hippie raised by a military man. And what that means, not that I love the military, what that means is if I'm going to complain about something, I'm going to move towards a solution.
You know, you brought up a lot of really interesting points, and I just want to highlight a few things that really resonate.
You're very supportive today.
Today, like I'm not
Like
supportive.
extra. Or maybe I didn't notice.
Offended.
Maybe I didn't know. Maybe I'm the one that changed.
Fair enough. Okay, so you were talking about the Jedi and you know, the dark side and, you know, the head and the mind. I would throw it out there. My hypothesis would be that a lot of this shadow realm stuff has 100% to do with the mind. And if we really like wrap our head around that, it has everything to do with the mind. So we create our own darkness through our thoughts and the patterns of thoughts that become normalized narratives that are part of our reality, or the scripts of our reality. So in that vein about the wisdom or this idea of the shadows and it being the mind that creates it, I'm being reminded of some indigenous wisdom that is really true to my own heart, because it's really impacted my development. So when I started exploring other calendar systems or other systems, counting systems to organize time and space, and I came across the wisdom of the Maya and their calendar system, I started kind of exploring what does that mean for me in terms of my wisdom and my innate energies. And I came across the wisdoms that they shared. And part of that wisdom, I learned that my kind of like astrology, they can kind of give you a little bit of some wisdom on energies that informed your incarnation. And the energy that informed my incarnation, the energy that I bring down from the heavens into my being, and it's the energy that's kind of represented by kind of the crown or the area here, is called AJ. And that concept represents the wisdom of the tree. So you think about the tree is our relative and it gives us sustained life and all that. But separate from that, it is considered kind of the connector between the upper and the lower realms, which they call the underworld. And the tree with its branches can actually, it is antennas to bring forth all of the wisdom from our higher self or oversoul or whatever you want to refer to it as, and brings it into the body. But it's also informed by the roots, which is all the wisdom of the underworld. So to walk with my soul needed to understand both the upper and the underworld. And so certain things that I experienced in my life, one of them being domestic violence, that was a very dark time in my life, and just really understanding the relationships and how those things really create dynamics in our life, I understood more of that. And I feel like because of that, I can speak from more experience when those that are also challenged by these darker times in their life, with understanding that it helps us kind of bring that fullness. And so if we're just in the head or in the mind or just in the branches of that tree, we're not taking full advantage of all the intelligence that is available to us. And that's kind of how I was visualizing, as Steve was kind of sharing this idea of, the dark side and just being in the mind.
And I wanted to highlight something, and I know you weren't saying this, but just for the audience, is that we don't want to let abusers off the hook. But a lot of what we went through might be in divine order. And
I believe that.
And I don't know any better way to say that.
Yeah.
I don't know every way to say that.
Everything helped me understand my own power and when and where I placed myself in situations to disempower me. And I had to see myself through that in all the different levels and layers,
And that took a lot of work.
Oh, 100%. You know what I mean? Like 100%. And that's true for, because the things that we experience in our adult life or through our life, there are micro reflections or reflections of the things that occurred in our childhood or maybe even intergenerationally. And the energies are coming up for us to explore, expand, and move through, because as I said, that's an innate desire for this earthly realm, is to constantly that's the feminine wisdom, constantly expanding energy. That's the creation energy.
I wanted to share something, a perspective that I had, and that somebody brought to me, and then I want to hear Darin's being more into. He's more into Christianity, but he can tell you how much he's into that. So sorry about that.
How much is into it?
So the cross goes like the part that goes across like this has to do with being in the world, and the part of the cross like this has to do of your spiritual connection. So I remember a church that's right over there. I would walk to Starbucks for every morning, and for 2 weeks straight, a crow would land on the top. So I would say that this is your spiritual connection, and then this is like the being in the world, and then the crow landing to the puff is dying to the moment of whatever you see in that moment. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the things that why I have a practice of pausing, because you want to see things in the moment. It's like people ask me, "Do you like ice cream?" It's like I don't like ice cream all the time. Sometimes ice cream seems totally gross to me. And if I'm in that zone, people could try to keep, "Oh, you want some ice cream?" And then sometimes I could be upset later because when I want it later, I'll be like, "Oh, I should have that ice cream," but I didn't want it then. Yeah. But it's with a lot of different things. I wrote this thing on. I think an enlightened relationship, you would be breaking up and falling in love with them every moment. Just that rawness of breaking up with them and falling in love with them every moment. Uh-huh. That would be an enlightened relationship.
Wow, especially for your personality that really values transformation. I can see how that really is true.
I said I'm not enlightened, so
oh, okay.
I'm not saying I could do that. I'm just saying. And I don't know any woman I'd be able to sell that one to.
Can we break up and get back together?
I'm going to have to have ChatGPT tell me how to figure out how to say that one a little better.
I guess in my family therapy training, what comes to mind is the differentiation and connection, right? Allowing another person to be their own person, and also breathing the same air, sharing the same literally bodily physical existence.
Yeah,
We're not separate, right? It's both. Both are true.
for sure.
And in pushing down the shadow, I think it's wanting to choose in a dichotomy, or draw a dichotomy and think it's either or. I want to be on the side of light. I want to be masculine. I want to be whatever, right? A preference, right? Acting out in, like, reflexively preferences, which is just constant habit of judgment, as opposed to, okay, what's the flip side? So since you bring Christianity into it,
Don't push the religion on us.
well, see, that's it. That is much of the world's experience of it,
And
right? It
for
immediately got co-opted by empire.
Which sucks.
Within 3 centuries. Constantine saw it as a way to dominate.
But I think that also was in divine order.
Well,
I'm not saying it's necessarily right, but I'm saying that the whole bird's eye view of it is in divine order.
Well, I guess the way I look at it is, if life is unfolding only as it can, right? I don't necessarily think there's a celestial being who plans everything and controls everything, but there's a creator whose creative energy is infinitely diverse. And that draws out our own creativity, our imagination, our wonder, right?
In India, they depict gurus that have gone to enlightenment as half masculine and half feminine. And because the mind only sees things in threes, it has to be simple, like made that simple.
Yeah.
But it's way more to that. There's way more to that.
There's or the Tao, right? There's the yin and the yang, and there's a reconciliation. There's a flow, right? There's a movement. It's not a static model, which is what our mind wants, because it's easier to control something static and just have sharp lines separating opposites. That's the way most language works, right?
Yeah.
Is things defined in terms of what they're not.
For sure.
And the reality involves both of these, right? So the third is the reconciliation of opposites. So, like in Christianity, there's the Trinity, which is the divine and the human reconciled with the spirit. Right? There's a connection, a reality that includes and transcends both.
And one thing that the two of you, Darin's known me longer than Krisna, that probably wouldn't believe about me. But when I was more corporate, this was in the 90s, my boss would have me put my schedule on it. So it's like, okay, you only schedule appointments here, do everything. And I put on Sundays between 2 and 4 was my spontaneous time. I booked time to be spontaneous. And that had to be the start for the unfolding.
It's paradoxical, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would even laugh at it when I was doing it, though. Like Friday, I'm always being spontaneous.
Well, it's kind of like holidays, like Valentine's Day. You're supposed to do some romantic surprise, but if you do it on schedule, it's really spontaneous.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
But if you don't do it, all hell will break loose.
Actually, I'm grateful to have that grace in my marriage, is that there's a gentleness with that.
For sure.
And a celebration and a flexibility. Like, oh, this seems like a good time to enjoy together, to step away from demands or schedules and just be present.
That's all a made-up concept. And it's not all bad, but the ultimate goal is to be able to get to that in every moment. Which wise men once told me is falling in love and breaking up.
Well, and even that, can we appreciate presence if we don't forget, if we don't also just get caught up in things or lost?
Well, I would be lying to you if I didn't think that process is happening for everybody. Some are better at advancing with that than others.
Yeah. But the movement, I find.
I mean, Hitler loved dogs.
Yeah.
I mean, probably because they're obedient.
They're hard not to.
Yeah, probably if they're obedient. That's probably why like Hitler liked to dance. like he hated modern art because it inspired people for change.
Yeah.
Right? So he wasn't perfect. No, I'm joking. He wasn't all bad, but he was the bad parts were very, very horrible.
Yeah, we want to define evil in terms of an example like that. It's irredeemable, right? Beyond, completely disconnected from good, right? To personify. Some call it Satan or the devil.
It's in all of us. It's in all of us.
That's it.
Yeah.
And if we other it, see it's out there, then we can disown it in ourselves.
For sure.
And not realize we're subject to those same dynamics within ourselves.
I saw a lot of people get up when I think it was one of the terrorist groups. That's actually a terrorist group, not just because they don't have uniforms, a terrorist group, but one of the actual terrorist groups. They had really nice videos, and everybody freaked out because they had really nice videos of some of the stuff they're doing. And I was like, this stuff's happening all over the world every time. But they thought, oh my goodness, these guys can actually, because they have like packaged nice videos, they can actually do bad work now.
Funny.
That's so
We take it more seriously, I guess, because there's good quality media production or something.
Oh, one of the times that I've talked to you, Darin, because sometimes about when I freak people on campus, is because I send them letters that aren't even bad, not threatening anything, but I don't use grammar, and it freaks them out. They're like, this guy must be crazy because he has no, he's not using periods in the proper place. It's because for me, it's art. So to be able to do that, it's art. Yeah. So it's like, how can I get in their head? Because like when I played baseball, I was the guy that would get in the other team's head, and like totally. I would get in the other team's head like 100%. I remember when Johnny Cochran did the things where you can't fit on the gloves. Yeah. I went out and I was like going like this, putting gloves. My team, the umpire, and everybody was mad at me. I went out there, was trying to put gloves on, just walking out there. Everybody on my team was mad at me, and I was just laughing. Yeah. But now that was when that was more of a curse. But that was training me to be able to go into everything. And everybody says do this, and I'm like, no, this is the right path.
Yeah.
And that might just be my interpretation of what went on. Maybe I was just an asshole back then, and I'm less of an asshole now. Maybe that might be it.
Two things can be true.
Yeah. I remember you doing some mind games with me when we first met.
No,
testing
that
me out a
doesn't
little
sound.
bit. Like,
That
how's
doesn't.
this guy gonna roll with my?
That doesn't sound like me.
And I was
still
like,
doing them.
This is
I'm
good.
still doing them
He's
with
having
you.
fun with me. And
I'm still doing them with you, and you don't even know.
Right.
Well, to wrap up our conversation, since we've kind of explored the shadow self and these different perspectives, and now kind of shifting the conversation or exploration to thinking about like this idea of religion or like Hitler and like the personification of what evil is or bad is or shadow is, what advice do you have for our amazing people out there on how they can integrate the shadow self to really address some of the things out there in the world that really pit people against one another because of different perspectives?
Yeah, I want to say something real quick, and then everybody else could go into it. This guy Marty Murphy, who was a mentor and friend of mine. What mentor and friends are people that are giving to each other and receiving. That's a term I came up with, and I call them the MFers too. The MFers, mentors and friends. That was one of my original thoughts. But Marty Murphy talked about every time. I don't know if he got this from somewhere or he came up with. Every time that you breathe in, it's that light. Every time you breathe out, it's that darkness. Mm-hmm. It's like that wise thing I said earlier about every moment falling in love and breaking up. But it's just like that breathing in, and that's why I have it's a whole reset. It's a whole reset.
So to recap, are you sharing for our viewers that it has a lot to do with your perspective, that if we understand that we're both like the lightness and the darkness, we're our shadow self and our, I don't know, brave self, I don't know, what other light self, but that we're that at every moment and every breath.
Yeah.
To just like accept and understand, acknowledge that for ourselves. Like there's nothing wrong with having a shadow self, having things that we're working on, fears or whatever that might be, traumas.
I had somebody recently that they got very mad, disgustingly mad, because I was telling them about a cannabis event that had alcohol in it. And a lot of people in the industry don't understand why there's a stigma against cannabis, but then they put a stigma against other things. I cut that off at pedophiles.
Okay.
I cut that off at pedophiles, violence towards women and children. Otherwise, if you're not doing any of that, and you're a basic person or you have a potential to it, I'm willing to collaborate with you if you're able to show up.
So you're saying, like, highlighting, like, the judgment. People who've been judged are then judging others.
Yeah, if you don't like stigmas, then don't have stigmas against the other person. I have a stigma against meth. I'll give you that. I have a stigma against meth. Not the person, but I see, I've seen somebody that's done meth, and then I'm like, why would somebody do this to himself? I think about that, so I don't want to push anything towards that. Cocaine, because I meditate, the dopamine reward system, like, because I don't know how bad that is, because I've heard people tell it, but the dopamine reward system with cocaine is enough. But I see people aren't ruining their lives with cocaine, but still, I don't want to do anything with promoting that in any way.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I talk to students about that. I say, and I was like, no judgment. Because sometimes, I still do Lyft, they say, hey, can you get me something? No, I get something. I was like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But it's coming from a kind, loving spot. So they do that, and they even listen to me when I said it. Like, I was like, I wouldn't do anything because of this. I go, I'm not judging you in any way for doing that. I was like, I'm the old dude that is in the cannabis industry. So I have no issue. I don't identify as old, but I understand they think I'm old. So that's one of the things. So if you're gonna have a stigma, and I feel like I'm talking too much, but every time, I've noticed for a long time, every time somebody, and this is like every group, every time somebody's talking about people being racist towards them, they end up saying something racist. Every time. It's like you could put your clock to that every time they'll say that. And it's feminist, it's the LGBTQ plus. Some of the letters are very, very harsh towards other of the other letters. Very, very harsh. So the best way that I've learned that's changed my life is to everything I want, I give. Everything I want, I give. Even if it's my last dollar, I give it. That's the best way to get it back, is to give it.
Yeah, keep it flowing.
Yeah.
Circulating.
You believe what you believe is your reality, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What about you, Darin? What do you think?
Some of what we talked about reminds me of the biological level of these things. Right? Not just mental constructs or maps we draw of the mind or what it is to be human, but start with the literal, the observable, that life and death, breathing, use that image, is a flow, is a movement. The beat of the heart is flexing and relaxing faithfully, hundreds of thousands, millions of times.
So when that part stops, you're dead. So aren't you dying for a moment every time it?
Yeah. Will it beat again?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's a mystery. It's open-ended, right? We don't.
And if you're on coke, it goes like this.
Yeah, we get used to it. We might take it for granted, but it's a reality that we're living in every moment. So to me, that's where my presence, when I'm aware, that's where it starts. Is it begins with just the basic reality, before judgments, before words are put to it. What is the reality? I'd say most of Jesus' teachings were grounded in observation of nature, right? It's pretty good evidence, at least in the texts that we have, that there's a cross-fertilization of like Taoism, Eastern Dharmic traditions with Western, and it's just a recognition of, hey, I recognize the same thing. Like, I see the tree. I see how it's living, it's working, it's teaching me just sitting there.
Yeah, it's not a, Christianity to me isn't an intellectual exercise. I think that's why, and the historical may be off on this, but I look at the concept and I trust that it was off, that the apostles were fishermen. they weren't intellectual, and I'm not saying that a fisherman couldn't be it, but they were like moving, carrying things. So that I think is easier to learn about what they're teaching. I think it's easier to learn anything. Like sometimes people ask me, I was like, "Are you in school?" I was like, "I could not." I'm learning. I'm constantly learning. I'm learning some new stuff. I could not sit in a class for 3 months in order to learn something, just bowing for a squiggly lines. Like, no way that it's like I'm gonna get like, oh, you got a squiggly line. They might as well just like give me stars. Like, I was like, oh, you got 5 stars like they did in kindergarten. I mean, that stuff means nothing to me.
Hey, Tori, got a puppy visitor. Hi.
Hi. How old?
12 weeks.
Oh wow, yeah. Tori would love to play right now.
We have 5 more.
Nice.
Oh, they're over there.
Did you want to end for us?
Yeah, I mean, thank you both for joining in this conversation, just exploring integration of our shadow self. Let us be courageous and not see it as something to disassociate from.
Oops. Tori wants to be center of attention now.
Love yourself and love all the parts of you, even the parts that feel a little scary. And we love you. And if you ever need someone to hold space with you, come join us, DM us. We'd love to talk with you.
Tori knew you had a hug for her.
You knew.
She loves hugs.
It was hug time.